those flight delays that we've seen at Delhi Airport, Mumbai Airport and parts of North India in the last couple of days, we now know that fines have been imposed on airlines as well as the Mumbai Airport. So the first incident I want to perhaps talk about is those visuals I'd like to pull up on screens as well. Passengers were seen eating at the tarmac. This was a flight that was diverted to Mumbai. Passengers were made to deboard. They started eating on the tarmac. Now, regulators took note of that incident and penalties have now been imposed.
Absolutely. So I think, Shweta, what we saw in these visuals, of course, which are on the screen right now, very clearly showing everybody out there that passengers had actually deboarded the plane. This was a Goa-Delhi bound flight 2195, if I'm not mistaken, and passengers were deboarded and they're sitting at the apron, they're sitting at the parking bay, and they've been served refreshments by IndiGo. Penalties have come on account of multiple lapses in protocol, multiple lapses in security, and BCAS, which is the Bureau of Civil Aviation Safety, as well as DGCA, the airline watchdog, aviation watchdog, have both slapped penalties in their own measures. We've been reading that about 1.2 crore rupees have been slapped as penalty on IndiGo, and this penalty comes on account of IndiGo literally not ensuring that passengers who've been deboarded from the plane which got diverted to Mumbai were not taken into the terminal building and were actually served refreshments on the tarmac at the apron itself. And this, of course, is obviously a serious breach of protocol when it comes to ensuring that passengers, when they deboard, are headed into the terminal, and when they're put onto another flight going to whichever sector, they have to pass through security again. So that has not really happened in this case, as we are seeing. So penalty of 1.2 crore rupees has been slapped on IndiGo, and even the Mumbai International Airport has been slapped with a penalty of about 30 lakh rupees for this very same breach. 60 lakh rupees perhaps for this very breach. I think 30 lakhs by BCAS and 30 lakhs by DGCA, amounting to about 60 lakhs on account of, again, the security protocol not being followed.
And in this very particular incident, about 1.8 crore rupees that IndiGo and Mumbai International Airport will have to let go of in terms of penalty. But overall, when it comes to the mismanagement of airlines and the flight delays that we've seen, now notices were issued back in December as well by DGCA, the Aviation Regulator, asking some of these airlines to perhaps explain what was the cause of delays when fog-like situation had started to just make headlines. And that time, I think it was the rostering of the pilots which was an issue, and DGCA has now found airlines guilty and slapped them with 30 lakh rupees.
So specifically, I think we are talking in this case about the incidents that happened between the 25th and 28th of December, and this is where Air India and SpiceJet both could not land at the Delhi airport, which was engulfed in fog, and were unable to fly those planes or land those planes simply because they apparently did not have Cat 3 trained pilots in the cockpit who could safely land the aircraft in Delhi. So now 30 lakh rupees each in penalty have been slapped by DGCA both on Air India and SpiceJet. Now remember, initially there was a show cause notice issued by DGCA to both Air India and SpiceJet asking them why they do not have enough trained pilots, and if they do, why were those pilots not rostered to fly into or operate aircraft which were coming into Delhi or taking off from Delhi. And apparently that reply on the show cause notice would not have sufficed, resulting in DGCA slapping 30 lakh rupees penalty each on Air India and SpiceJet.
All right. And overall, the situation seems to be improving just a tad little bit as of today.
Because
the fog situation is
yesterday was a clear
better.
day in Delhi.
Absolutely.
This morning, driving into office, I think there was still enough fog. I wasn't able to obviously calculate how many meters was it, 50 meters or beyond. But again, I think it's important to realize that, why are Cat 3 runways and Cat 3 trained pilots important? It's important because, number one, in sub 50 meter visibility or 50 meters and beyond visibility, there can be automated landing done by Cat 3 trained pilots, and on autopilot mode, aircraft can land onto the runway strip. Now, in the, what happens on takeoff is a slightly different scenario. You don't have automated takeoff. So, an autopilot will not take the aircraft into the sky. And for that, you need Cat 3 trained pilots who will be able to fly in visibility upwards of 125 meters. So, what really happened over the last, in this entire week, in fact, at the Delhi airport, was that while flights were able to land, flights were unable to take off. So when the visibility was within the range of 50 meters to 125 meters, Delhi airport was able to accommodate landing of aircraft, but obviously they ran short of parking space, they ran short of other avenues, because in the in the absence of visibility going beyond 125 meters, aircraft were unable to take off. So obviously, there are multiple problems at play. Now, Jyotiraditya Scindia, the aviation minister, has come on record and said that before the 26th of Jan, which is Republic Day, the third Cat 3 enabled runway in Delhi will be made operational. But my question is, will fog actually last beyond 26th of Jan? We don't know. So there's obviously there's a lack of planning, there's a lack of anticipation. Fog situation in Delhi doesn't come by surprise. In fact, it's a yearly phenomenon. There are days and days between the months of end December and end Jan, where you have at least 15 odd days of fog-like conditions, and during those days is when you actually need your your Cat 3 runways to be operational. So why was construction permitted to happen on the outside perimeter of the strip in the peak of winters? In any case, at a time when there is there are pollution concerns and there are GRAP regulations that come into play from the Delhi government side, halting construction. So I think obviously planning has been a major miss. There has been mismanagement at the airport. I think the biggest chaos has erupted because of lack of communication between airline staff and passengers. The processes that airlines should have deployed in keeping passengers informed about delays or rather likelihood of cancellations of flights, those communication linkages between airlines, ground staff and passengers were weak, and that resulted in passengers also obviously finding avenues to vent their anger. And what we are seeing on the Mumbai apron is perhaps a very, very ideal case of mismanagement. Because why was the parking allocated to an IndiGo aircraft far away from the regular parking lots, and no bus services or any other mode of ferrying passengers from the aircraft to the terminal not made available?
Absolutely. And look at the breakdown of that fine of 1.2 crore rupees on IndiGo. For security violations, 2 fines of 50 lakh rupees each. For not reporting the incident, 2 fines of 5 lakh rupees each. And improper management of situation, a fine of 10 lakh rupees. A total of 1.2 crore rupees. That is a major hefty fine that IndiGo will have to pay. But IndiGo is not the only airline, which is IndiGo being the biggest airline, or has currently the biggest share of the market pie. But other airlines, of course, were also delayed, including Air India, SpiceJet, Vistara, all amounting to the foggy situation. I think before we actually conclude as to what's really happened, it feels like when you add all these incidents together, and what happened with SpiceJet as of yesterday, when a certain passenger was stuck in the lavatory and that he could not come out. I believe that passenger has also got a refund. It looks like all is not going too well with airlines, at least in the past couple of days.
That's a very, very different incident, and I think it's an unfortunate mishap inside the lavatory of the aircraft. But I think the larger problem obviously is to do with mismanagement at airports, both at Delhi airport as well as at the Mumbai airport. Delhi airport mismanagement by way of not enough communication, open lines of communication between airlines, the ground staff and passengers. Mumbai airport, I think, permitting passengers to deboard and sit on the apron is obviously a security threat. I mean, who's going to take responsibility of a passenger running across the runway getting hit by an aircraft? I mean, it's going to obviously result in catastrophic damage for the passenger who decides to perhaps do that, but also to the assets, to the aircraft, to the safety of other passengers in another aircraft. So these are obviously serious lapses. A fine, a penalty, yeah, sure, okay, it's most welcome. But I think there have to be very, very
some
stringent...
lessons learned also,
some lessons have to be learned, have to be implemented, and I think a strong enough
this
case
is a
needs
yearly
to be
phenomena.
made. It's a yearly phenomena, and overall I think there is enough angst among passengers, among what we call the affluent Indians who are taking to the skies, where you're paying through your nose for air tickets. Your seats are not comfortable. You're asked to pay extra for any seat selection that you want to do. You want extra legroom, you want window seat, you want aisle seat, you want front row, you want emergency exit. You're paying additional through your noses for that. In addition to that, I mean, you buy a sandwich at for 350 rupees. So overall, I think the seats are not comfortable. Look at IndiGo, the flights that IndiGo operates. The cushions are much slimmer, thinner, not the most comfortable. You're squeezing in more number of seats to be able to fly more number of passengers. There are restrictions on how much baggage you're allowed to carry. I mean, at one point it used to be 25 kgs, brought down to 23 kgs, 20 kgs, now it is 15 kgs. So overall, I think there is this angst, there is this rage among passengers that, we are paying you at every step. There are enough instances where what we should be paying to fly from point of origin to destination, what we end up paying is much higher. There are a lot of these hidden costs, these dark patterns in in the way seats are priced, and on top of that, there are flight delays. You're not informing us. DGC has said any delay more than 3 hours should result in cancellation or the option for passengers to not fly. But, where is that communication and
Absolutely.
where is that seamlessness in making passengers? And passengers at the end of the day are not just cattle class passengers. While that is the class they might be flying, but at the end of the day, these are customers, and businesses need to be responsible towards their customers.
Absolutely. And perhaps if the aviation regulator and the diktat put out by DGCA is complied with, there should be more and better communication as opposed to an opaque structure that currently operates at the moment, and passengers should be informed well in advance if a flight is either delayed or is subsequently cancelled upon waiting for 3 hours or more. We will of course keep tracking all those details coming out from what's happening in the aviation sector.